Long may the wellerman come, bring us sugar and tea and rum. So today I'm just going to run through the perfect B2B SaaS sales framework. And this is a framework, and the reason I use the word framework is because every business, every salesperson will need to innovate and use this as a basis, and this is the solid basis that I've used in all of my sales, and what we advise all our clients to use as well. So take this and run with it and use it and adapt it. But really, honestly, like no matter what stage of growth you're at, whether you're pre-revenue, like pre-launch, and you're selling, you're pre-selling, or whether you've got millions in sales under your belt, the process does not need to be any more complicated than this. So like where this comes from, I know I look like a spring chicken, and I'm flattered that people say this, but I've got almost a decade in SaaS and tech sales and marketing behind me. I started selling private medical insurance in my summer holidays, and then I've worked with some of the fastest growing SaaS companies as a salesperson, as a sales and marketing manager, selling into a ton of different sectors, into the NHS, into construction, into SaaS and tech companies. And this framework, like some of those contexts have been, I've just been chucked in on the phones and people have just told me to get on with it, and I didn't really have any idea what I was doing. Some of them were a bit more structured. The ones that were more structured and had recently gone from 5-10 salespeople to 50 or 100 within a few years followed a process very, very similar to this, and kept it simple and didn't really deviate from this an awful lot. This process gave me the confidence to turn down a sales role from Tesla to start my own business and build Plexi, which is an Elon Musk farm, and the whole purpose of what I do is to just create more Elon Musk's, and so like this process really has been central to all of that. And then with Plexi, we've almost tripled in the last few months, and this process and troubleshooting this process, getting elements of this process right, has been absolutely critical to that. So so I hope this is useful, I hope it's valuable, and we'll dive into Q&A further down the line. So the process really is like ridiculously simple, ridiculously straightforward, and I suppose there's 4 basic steps to the process. Now at either end of the spectrum, I mean, this process and the way I describe it is absolutely spot on for that mid-market sale. So your price point, your customer lifetime value is anywhere between 500 quid and a few thousand. At the lower end of that spectrum, this same process still applies 100%. But you'll probably want to automate bits of it. It won't be profitable to have one salesperson for each step of this process, and you want to automate bits or all of that sales process. And at the higher end, where you're selling much higher ticket service contracts, then there will be more steps. The process will be more complicated. There'll be more decision makers, and you'll probably have salespeople for each step of this process, and structure your team along those lines. But this process really applies to any industry sector, any sale you ever make. The goal here is to take in-market prospects and convert them into highly engaged buyers, and get them to take whatever action it is you want. So an in-market prospect, we're not trying to sell beef to vegetarians. We're not trying to sell finance software to companies that don't have any finance issues. We're not trying to sell an e-commerce platform to a butcher shop that doesn't and is never going to sell online. So part of that, and we'll go through this in the stages, is as a lead comes in, filtering out and making sure that somebody is relevant to what it is, the opportunity that you've got for them. That's the goal. And the goal is to get them to a 10 out of 10, take a lead at whatever stage of the buying process they're at, and get them to a 10 out of 10 on you. They trust you, they believe in you, and that's probably the most important. Get them to a 10 out of 10 on the product and the service that you're offering, and get them to a 10 out of 10 on the company, and then get them to take action. That's the goal of this process. And I'm going to talk through how to do that, how to qualify, how to build rapport and control that process. And when I first started out, I'm someone who loves learning, who loves speaking to people, who loves building relationships. And so that part of the process, picking apart pain points and buying values, and the whole fact find part of the process came naturally to me. The bit that I've always struggled with, and only in the last few months really have really dialed in, is closing, and that's my weakness. And every salesperson will have their own strength and weakness, and need to work through that process. But the crucial elements to selling really are sticking to this process, nailing this process, and certainty that what you're offering is really going to make a huge amount of difference to the person that you're selling to, and knowing that and communicating that, not just in your words, but in your body language, in your tone of voice, and really knowing that. And you see that the best salespeople are the people that just know that in their core, and that's irrespective of how many bugs your software's got, how crap your fulfillment is. Do you even have a product that you're selling to them, or are you just are you pre-selling? And the best salespeople are like an actor, able to create that persona, that confidence, and straight out of the gate open any engagement with energy, with enthusiasm, with like unshakable belief that what they're selling is going to completely change this person's life. And that sounds like hyperbole, that sounds ridiculous, but that really is the case. And I know for myself, when I'm selling well is when I have that confidence, and when I'm just like, there's no element of self-doubt, there's no element of self-questioning. When that doubt starts to creep in, then my conversions fall off. And you see that on a regular basis. So the perfect sale, the perfect prospect will go through this process, and you won't have to do anything. They will have no objections. You'll open the conversation. You'll meet them. And referrals often come closer to this, but they won't. They'll trust you out of the gate. They'll trust the business. They'll trust the product. They'll know you. They'll understand. They might not even know you or understand anything about the product or the company. They might just be a very trusting person. They might know that they have an issue, and they just take action out of the gate. And those happen once every 6 months or so, if that. And those sales are amazing. They're great. They're wonderful. But my 6-year-old cousin could close that. You don't need to do anything. You just need to ask a few questions and say, okay, well, do you want to sign up? Like, sign up now, or just close that sale. That's easy. Like, that's not what we're looking at here. What we're looking at is taking prospects and people that are a good fit for what you're offering, or could be a good fit. Sometimes you really don't know, and converting them into that 10 out of 10 on you. They completely trust you. They completely buy into and believe in the product and the service, and they completely trust the company, believe in the company, and they're ready to take action. So this process, the goal of this process is to take those sales and just convert more and more and more of those. So there's four stages to the process, essentially. And like I say, ridiculously simple. Does not need to be more complicated than this, whether you're a founder or you're the first salesperson in, or whether you have a team of 50, 100 salespeople. And actually, like, I really want to emphasize the simplicity of this, because at a larger scale, that simplicity is going to be extra important, because you've got so many moving parts, you've got so many pieces of the puzzle. You'll have several different products, services, upsells, cross-sells, different departments of the business, and that simplicity is going to be crucial, because it needs to be manageable. It needs to be as simple as possible, just because you're doing it at scale and there's that complexity. And at the lower end of the spectrum, like, that simplicity, it is completely important, because you might have 10 customers, you might have 50 customers, but you need to be able to identify what's working, what isn't working, and if you've got a sales process with 50 different steps, there's no way in hell you're going to be able to identify what's going wrong, what isn't. And so the first step of that process is the frame, and throughout this sales process, this is not a normal conversation. I used to go into sales calls and think that it was a nice chat, and I pick up the phone. I get chucked in as a junior salesperson. I pick up the phone, and like, I'm a chatty, fairly extroverted kind of person, and I just pick up the phone and have a good conversation, and some of the sales would fall in, some wouldn't. A sales conversation is a very focused conversation. There's a very clear outcome, and the goal is for you as a salesperson to keep control of that process without breaking rapport. You need to be constantly building rapport and maintaining that, but keeping the conversation within fairly narrow confines. You're not talking, you might do a little bit of small talk at the beginning, but beyond that, you're not talking about how's a dog, what's going on how's Auntie Margaret. Like, this is a very focused conversation. Are you all with me?
Yeah. Your background is very much sales driven then, Rob.
It's a broad mix, actually. Like in the early part, then it's quite sales driven, and then in the latter part, where I went into sales and marketing manager roles, then the focus in the latter part, and certainly with Plexi and the roles before that, is marketing focused. And so the process that a lot of you are going through, and the process that Plexi have been through in the last few months, is kind of the culmination of like the last few years of just testing digital channels out and using those almost as a salesperson to just find a predictable, scalable way to use those digital channels to support a sales process. So yeah, I kind of come at this whole process with a very sales focused mindset. And so out of the gate, the first step is to frame the conversation, get control of the conversation, and the way I do this with every conversation, with every lead, every intro call that comes in, is I open. There may be a little bit of small talk. I might just ask them a little bit. And then I'll frame the conversation with, okay, like this is a great opportunity for us to introduce ourselves, you to get to know a little bit more about us, and for us to learn more about you, to find out more about your challenges, and to see if we're a good fit. And that frames the conversation, that gives you control over the conversation. And what I mentioned earlier about every time you pick up the phone to a prospect, like the mindset to have with every single interaction is that the opportunity that you're selling them, the service, the product, will change for the right person, will completely change their life or their business, because the reality is that it will, and that's like that really is the reality. And that applies to selling t-shirts, and it will boost their status with their friends. They'll be the coolest kid in school, as much as it does to selling marketing automation software, and that completely revolutionizing the whole management process of large scale marketing budgets, saving companies millions of pounds, and hours of work and a whole lot of headaches. Like that really is the case with any product or service, and you have to go into any interaction with that. So that frame is crucial. That sets up the first bit of the process of the interaction, and what you genuinely are seeing if this is a good fit for who you're on the phone to. And you genuinely are asking questions, uncovering elements we'll go into in a second, to find out whether they're a good fit for this. And if they're not, then sack off the conversation. If you can see that straight out the gate, don't take it any further. Just move on to the next one. Give them your phone number, give them your details, send them an email, say, look, this isn't a good fit for you now. Here are my details. Love to hear from you in the future. Move on to the next one. And lots of salespeople don't do that. They as soon as they get somebody who wants to speak to them, then they'll drag that out. But that's not a good use of their time. It's not a good use of your time. But that really is the goal of the frame. And then the second section, which is like your intro or your qualification. So this second section is part of this first call. So normally, and like I say, this is a framework. Innovate on this depending on the size and scale of your business, depending on the price point of what you're offering. Play with this framework. But so we've actually been playing around with this in the last few months, looking at do we do an intro call, so step 2 and step 3, as 2 separate calls, or do we just do it in one? And actually, for us and for our business, the best approach is just to be flexible. Sometimes we'll be able to get through both of these stages, so the intro and the qualification call, in 5, 10, 15 minutes, and then we'll go into to the demo or like the proposal, the match and propose stage of the process, and we can do that in one call, and that's fine. And sometimes it needs a little bit longer. Sometimes there are more decision makers, and so if we can see that there's 3, 4 different decision makers and they all need to be on a call, then I'll say to people, look, having gone through stage 2, let's set up another time for stage 3, for the demo call. Make sure that everybody is on that call, and we'll do those. But like I say, innovate on the process.
Right. Can I jump in? Just what was the headline for stage 2? So
Yeah.
Stage 1.
So let me just outline the stages. So step 1 is frame. That's your open and your frame, where you take control of the interaction. Step 2 is your intro call. So for SaaS companies, the 4 stages are frame, intro call, demo, and close. And yeah, like I say, in bigger organizations with higher price points, then you'll have a separate call for each of those stages, and you'll probably have a different person doing each of those stages. We were talking about Cognizant the other week. If you haven't done it already, like this afternoon, ring Cognizant as if you're interested in what they're offering, and they break these stages down perfectly. And they have a different person for each of these stages, and they pass you on. They'll have like a sales manager go through. They'll do the frame and the intro call. They'll fact find, and then they'll schedule another call with like a mid-level or a junior salesperson to do the demo call, and then they'll have like a specific closer for each product or service that you're interested in, and they'll filter it out that way. I would highly recommend that you just pick up the phone and whether you're a customer or not, just pretend to be a prospect and just go through that process if you haven't already. Their sales process is a really good example. So step 2, that intro call, I literally, on each sales call, I'm sat at my computer. At the moment, everything's over Zoom, so I can just type away as I go and take notes as I go. Completely up to you how you prefer to work, but I have 4 headings for every single intro call, and I just take notes on each of those aspects. So the first thing that I'm looking for, and this really is absolutely crucial, is pain points. So I just copy and paste these 4 headings into, so we use HubSpot, so I just copy these into every prospect's record, and I have pain points. And under that, as we go through the conversation, and I'll be picking apart pain points. Like that's where I'll start. We'll start the conversation, I'll frame it, and then I'll ask, so what's the reason you booked the call in? Is there a specific reason? And then the conversation will start flowing and start rolling, and I'll be hunting down, and I feel like the sales process is like pulling apart, like pulling weeds out of the way to try and get to the real pains and motivations and reasons for someone buying. And once you know those objections, and you do a good job of uncovering what those objections are, what their problems are, what you can actually help them solve, then the sales process becomes easy, because you can just match whatever it is you're offering to those specific pain points. So I've actually got a pretty good document on on this intro call that goes through these sections, and I can share that with you with a few ideas.
Rob?
No problem.
Can I just jump in there, Rob? Sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, I need to shoot in a minute, but the guys will hang around. But I was just going to say, I think that framework lends itself quite nicely to marketing as well as sales, and the way you structure your messaging from, that first touch point. You don't go in and ask someone to book a demo straight away. It's about talking to them on an emotional level, like we spoke about last week. And then as you go through you might be sending them emails or LinkedIn messages or whatever it is. As you learn more about that prospect, you progress the messaging to be more focused around maybe his pain points, or maybe it's booking a demo or that kind of thing. So I'll thank you for that, and I'll have to shoot. But if you could send over this recording, Rob, I'd send it around to Brett and his guys. But yeah.
Yeah, we'll do.
Thanks, guys.
Speak to you soon.
See you, Sam. So yeah, on that intro call, I'll go into pain points, and I have when I first started this process, and for each new product, service, each new business I join as a salesperson, then I'll list out the questions for that process, that elicits those pain points. So that could be anything. That could be business, that could be personal. So for us, for Plexi, then often that's around previous experiences with marketers and previous processes that people have been through, and we'll just dive in as much detail as possible into the pain points of that process. The second one that we go through on that intro call and that qual call is buying value. So what is important to whoever you're speaking to, and that's different for every single person. So for some people, they might be more interested in status. Have you worked with X number of different companies? For some people, that might be about you and your personality. That might be about do our values fit? Are you a good person? I like doing business with people that I get on with. And again, just pick apart those buying values, uncover that as step 2, and I have buying values as a header on that intro call. Step 3 is about urgency. Sorry, not step 3, but the third section of that intro call, the third header I have, is urgency. And I will uncover why is this urgent? I'll know what the pain is, and then I'll dive into what is why does it need to be solved now? Does it need to be solved now? What does the urgency come from? Who do you have hounding you? Is your wife kicking your bedroom door down every single day to get you to sort this? What does the urgency come from? What situation is the business in? For us, it's a lot about sales and marketing plans, what the goals are, what the targets are, and how can we help you get to that. But you pick apart where that urgency comes from, and help create that urgency. And then the fourth heading in that intro call is just about the numbers, is picking apart what are the specifics. So going into as much detail as you can on those pain points, looking at the real specific details of okay, so you're struggling with managing communications with 20 different segments of people, or you're struggling chasing payments with 20 different customers. They're based all over the world. And you can't manage that process. So how many invoices have you got outstanding? What's the value to that? What's the impact of that on the business? What's your manager's opinion on that? What's like what are the specific details, what are your targets, what are the numbers around that process, and just pulling apart the real granular details of those pain points. And those pain points are the most important one out of those, because like I said earlier, like the perfect sale is someone that comes in, they don't really have any objections, they don't really question anything, they're fine with you, they're fine with the company, they're fine with the business, they go through. Anyone could sell that. Like that's not really selling. You're not doing anything with a prospect like that. For the majority, like the vast majority of people that are a good potential fit for what you've got, what you're offering them could genuinely make a massive difference to them and their business. But they don't just go through and just kind of roll through that process themselves. Uncovering those pain points and really diving into the detail of those pain points in an almost uncomfortable level of detail is what gives people the impetus to actually purchase at the end. Like helping them understand how much of an issue they actually have is what gets people to buy at the end of the process. So diving into those pain points is far and away the most important part of that intro call, that qual call. So that's your intro call. You pick apart those details, and if it's just you managing the whole sales process, then and you're just doing it in one call, then that's the first part of your call. That's 5-10 minutes at the beginning of the call, diving into those details, diving into those pain points and those issues. If the business is bigger, if what you're selling is at a higher price point, or the business is more complex, you might have you might just be one person. You might spend 15 minutes, 30 minutes going through that intro call. You record that and you pass that information on to whoever's doing the demo. So you take that information and then you move on to stage 3 of the process, which is the pitch. In a SaaS context, then it's a demo. Like your demo is your pitch essentially. And so that demo and that pitch is where you lay out exactly what you're offering that prospect as they come through. And the key to getting that right is adapting it and taking the information from that intro call, looking at what their 3 biggest pain points are, looking at what their urgency is, looking at what that one big thing is that if you could solve would completely change their business. And you're matching and proposing aspects of what you offer, and running through a fairly standard demo, but making sure that you hit those pain points. So you might have a particular feature that like matches perfectly and just solves one specific pain point. So if you're already learning software and you know that they've already told you that they're struggling with like a webinar function or like a video conferencing function, and you've got a specific feature that solves that pain for them and just makes their whole training process a million times easier, then go into that in detail and pick out from those pain points, from that urgency and those buying values, make sure you highlight aspects of your software or your service that matches with all the information that you found out on that intro call, and really paint the picture. So that demo is a fairly standard process, and the more you do this process, the more you'll you'll know how to structure this, the more you'll know like what aspects of the demo people resonate with people most, like, and structuring that demo, whether it works better if you have a full presentation, whether it works better if you just do this verbally and you just do it in person and you just have a natural conversation with someone, whether it works better if you actually travel to a client's site and run them through the process. And those details you figure out, but this frames how you structure that process. And so that's step 3 is the demo, and then the final step of the process, like stage 4, is the close. And now most people think that that's the end of the sale, that you get through the demo, you ask someone, okay, does this look interesting or not? Do you want to buy now? Is what typically happens. And if they might at that point, I mean, how I've just phrased it is not a great way to ask for the sale or for the close. But at that point, then rarely, like in that perfect sale where someone just is happy and they just go through and they're ready to buy, they'll say, yeah, fine, let's start, let's get signed up, and let's jump on board right away. 99% of the time, when you ask for that sale, when you ask for the sale the first time, you'll get an objection come out. And that's really when the sales process starts. So this stage 4, the close, I've always been taught, and I always share with team members and salespeople that I'm training and working with, that you have to get comfortable asking for the sale 3 times. At the end of this process, you've pulled out their pain points, their urgency, their buying values. You've shown them how what you offer matches and reflects those and just hits all of those. And at that stage, you've gone through the process, you've got good rapport with them, they trust you, they trust the product, they trust the company. And at that stage, then you ask for the sale. And I say, do this 3 times. And this is the hardest part for me, because this is just, for me, this is way out of my comfort zone. I'm not a pushy person at all. I'm not comfortable with this part of the process. I'm great at getting people to talk and just having a conversation with someone, great at asking questions, because I love those kinds of interactions. I love learning. Closing, for me, some people love it. I'm really not comfortable with that. But asking for that close 3 times is actually what's made the difference for Plexi in taking us from spending thousands a month on ads, and just packing out our calendars and getting us from, like, we were in the red for a few months when we first started the process, and the difference was actually in getting this close right. We were getting a ton of great prospects, we were getting a ton of great conversations, but the issue for us was in getting this close right. And so in asking for that sale 3 times, you get to the end of the demo, the end of the interaction, and lay out, so this looks like a perfect fit for you. I think we can help you do X, Y, and Z. This is the process to get you signed up and set up. You've got this many days to cancel. You've got this much setup time. So when do you want to get started? And getting that, asking for that sale the first time normally draws out an objection, and then from there, then the sales process really starts. And the way to handle that, once you get that first objection, and they say, oh, I need to, yeah, it looks great. I need to make sure that it'll integrate with our software system already that we've got in place already. So at that stage, then the goal is to acknowledge that objection and isolate that objection, and then handle the objection. Now, what I used to do is I'd be far too blunt about it. Somebody would come up with an objection at that stage, and I would just dive straight into yeah, but this integrates perfectly. Like, you're crazy. What are you talking about? And that's just not the right way to do it. And honestly, like that just leads to conflict, and that breaks rapport. And that's not the right way to handle an objection. You want to keep that rapport, but you want to understand the objection. Say, yeah, absolutely get it. I completely appreciate that. We have lots of clients that are on a similar system and have been through the same process. Now, if we get that sorted, is there anything else stopping you from jumping on board? So I've acknowledged that objection, I've isolated it to make sure that there's nothing else. And if they say there's other things, then you handle those in exactly the same way. And you just keep looping back to each objection until you've covered every single objection without breaking that rapport, and get to the point where they sign up with you. And so then you acknowledge, you isolate the objection, and then you handle the objection. So so if the objection is, like, I'm not sure if this integrates with our CRM system, with our ERP system, whatever that is. After those first two steps, then you can dive in and say, you can open up your computer and you can go through and you can just show them how easy the integration is between the two bits of software, and run them through that process. Or you can just do it verbally. Or if you're on site, then you can go through and show them that bit of the process. And so you go through that acknowledgement, isolation, handling the objection. Once you've been through that, then you ask for the sale again. So you go through that objection, and then you ask for the sale. So if there's nothing else, then we can get you set up. In 5 days, we can get you up and running. When do you want to kick things off? What's the best method of payment if you're doing lower end transactions? Or who's the best person to send the contract through to if you're dealing with higher price points? And then the same process goes again. So at that point, either they'll close, and again, most people, the second time you ask for the sale, will not close. Like, that's just a reality. But they'll give you another objection. They'll come up with another thing another obstacle for you to work through. And again, acknowledge that objection, that second objection. Maybe they just ask you to send a proposal through, and you'll come up with ways of acknowledging those, isolating that, making sure that that is the only thing that is stopping them moving forwards, and then handling that objection, and then asking for the sale again. So again, the more you go through this process, the more you'll come up with creative ways to not just use the same questions and the same language every time, but keep it natural, keep it organic, and work through that process. So you ask for the sale 3 times, and it's so important to get comfortable with doing that. And so many people don't do that. So many people end a great demo and a great a great sales conversation with, so do you want to get started? If somebody's a little bit on the fence, then they don't push hard enough for that sale. And it's not about being a hard ass closer and being a dick about it. Like you're genuinely, sometimes like people just need some help to get over the line. And you genuinely are, in a lot of cases, going to completely transform their business and completely transform how they do things. But some people just need a nudge. But like I say, the art is to do that without breaking rapport. Like, it's not about getting into a conflict and just beating someone over the head until they do it. It's about artfully doing it and doing it without breaking that relationship. So ask for that sale 3 times. If at the end of that they're still not quite there, then fine. At that stage, then you leave it there, and you send over details, a summary over email. You send over like a summary of the conversation, the details of your service, and then you just keep working through objections over the period beyond, like however long that is, whether that's days or weeks or months, and you just go into follow-up mode and handling objections and just following up at that stage. But that's the 4-step process framework that I've used to sell millions in service contracts, in SaaS products, in tech products and services, and also for now as a founder for my own business. And getting each step of that process right is what will make the difference in boosting conversions.
Can I ask a quick question, Rob?
Pim.
Where does pricing sit in that? Because does that class as an objection? Would that be the question that's thrown back at you, or?
Yeah, definitely. Are you just talking about at the end where you're going through that close and that objection handling?
Yeah. Would you leave pricing till last in the process?
Or would you put it into the? Because me and Johnny are putting a presentation together at the moment. Actually, would you put the pricing into the presentation towards the end of that so they can see the costs of what they're actually buying into, or
where would more of a validation thing?
Yeah. So as with all of this, like this is a framework. The reality is that you get chucked into a conversation, and the more control you have over the process, the more it will follow that structure. But out the gate, you might have someone pick up the phone and they might say to you, how much is it? I just want to know roughly how much it is, and if it's the right price, then I'll buy, and if it's not, then I won't. And at that point, then you want to delay the pricing as much as you possibly can. So at that point, if pricing comes up earlier in the conversation, the way I tend to handle it is I give people a range. So I'll say, look, I don't know what I need to understand more about you and about the business and about what you're struggling with before I know exactly what's going to be relevant for you. But to give you an idea, then like it ranges anywhere from £500 to 10 grand a month, whatever the value of that is. But basically, you want to leave pricing until the very end. Only when somebody absolutely understands the value of what it is you're giving them and understands exactly what's included, like exactly what's included in the service or the product, and how valuable it is, at that point do you include pricing. So pricing should come at the very end of that stage 3 of the demo or the pitch, and that comes right at the very end, just before the close. And so like the idea is that you control the energy and the rapport, and you kind of build people up to a climax at the end of that demo, and then you drop the pricing. Once they're at the point where they understand the value the most, they're excited, they're engaged, and almost in a state where it doesn't matter what price you tell them, they're so excited about what it is that you've laid out and what you've got to offer and how it's going to help them solve these 10 different things. And then that makes pricing irrelevant, because your service is going to help them with these 10 different things. So put pricing at the end of that demo and the close, and then move straight into your close and asking for that sale 3 times.
Perfect, thanks.
Thanks. Yeah.
All right.